So tell me, who's completely new to this kind of thing? Meditation, mind, welcome. Hope I won't scare you too much. There's a lot of stuff going on in Buddhism. So yes, so I'm from this organization called the Foundation for the Preservation of the Mahayana Tradition, which was founded like in the 70s. I'll give you a brief synopsis. Is that in the late 60s, 70s, when many of the Westerns were traveling to Asia, they met two teachers. Not of course, they met many Tibetan teachers, but two of the foremost teachers that they met was Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa Rinpoche. I'm not sure. Yeah, so there. So Lama Yeshe was the one on the left there. Lama Zopa on the right. So Lama Zopa is still alive, and he's become my teacher. I took him as my personal teacher. Lama Yeshe was Lama Zopa's teacher. So these two are two of the first teachers the Westerners met from here: Swiss, France, Canada, Australia, all over. So some of them ordained and became monks and nuns. Some of them didn't, but they took on the Buddhist path. And many, having lived in Asia for some time, came back and started centers. So Lama Yeshe's one of the visions. It wasn't his idea to say, right, go out and spread Buddhism. It's that the students went out and said, we'd like to share the knowledge we have. So Lama Yeshe gave some direction, saying, if you make centers where people can actually, live in the centers, practice, have retreats happening all the time. So almost like residential centers. So some of the first centers started as kind of out in the countryside. So we have one near our monastery near Toulouse. It was an old chateau of Lautrec, Lautrec family. So one of Lama Yeshe's disciples bought this chateau, gave it to Lama Yeshe, and it became a kind of residential center. So one of the first. There's one in California, one was in Shenrezi in Australia. So then other centers started, so like city centers started exactly like this, So maybe people's living rooms became centers, and they gave the living room, every week to a group discussion or something like that. So that's how these centers started. And now it's a huge organization, like 170 centers around the world, study groups like this one, which maybe may become the center one day. So, and then they have teachers coming, like me. Not necessarily monks and nuns. We have lay people, coming to teach. So that's how we're going on now. So Lama Yeshe passed away. He's actually unusually he reincarnated like a year later after his death, like in the early 80s, into a family who were his disciples. He was found as a little boy. He was in Spain. And then he even got a picture of him. He's called Ocel. So he was put into a monastery almost straight away. When he was 5, 6 years old, he was ordained. You see him as a little kid wearing all this stuff, running around. And his first attendants were his former disciples, who were monks and nuns. So Rubina was also one of his. When Rubina, if you met her, was one of his first attendants. And I think he's still traumatized from that kind of stuff. And also Namgyal, apparently. Namgyal also was a. So anyway, he was put into monastery. So he studied the curriculum, like Tibetan, the debate, everything. But I think like when he was like 16, 17, 18, he kind of rebelled. He said, "Why am I doing this?" Because there's a huge pressure for him, to take on this organization. So he left the studies. He left the ordination. He's a layperson now, and he has a partner and a child, and he started teaching now. Like in his own way, not maybe in the way that the Lamas of Rinpoche would like him to teach, but in his own way. So he's back. So Lama Zopa is continuing the work that Lama Yeshe started. So, like I was with him now recently in France. Fantastic retreat. Again, I can only promote him because he's my teacher, so I can't brainwash you. But because some people don't like his way and his style or whatever, you have to check for yourself. So his main thing was to promote, or him and Lam Rinpoche, to promote like kind of an experiential idea of what the Lam Rim. So Lam Rim in Tibetan is Lam is path and Rim is graduated path. So in the Tibetan tradition, we have 4 traditions in the Tibetan style, right? So we're from the 4th one, from the 14th century. It's called the Geluk system. So from the Dalai Lama's tradition, actually. So we wear normally the yellow hats. The other people wear different kind of hats, red and all of it.
Does that make a difference?
It does. I think it does. It does actually. It does because it follows which time period. Actually, Kandala when she came Kandala, this one Tibetan lady that comes to teach in our center sometimes. She's very close to His Holiness, supposed to be an oracle for His Holiness, whatever. She's teaching now. So she always emphasizes, the four traditions coming in, it's not particularly a difference in style or path. It's more just the time period Buddhism came in, or the teachers of those traditions coming in, and the waves Buddhism came into Tibet. So kind of four major waves. So we're coming from the fourth kind of tradition. So this became more monastic because the founder, Lama Tsongkhapa, we haven't got a picture here. So he saw at the time in Tibet kind of the confusion between the tantric practice which is going on, which actually in our tradition is very essential for complete enlightenment, and the sutric path. So there was like a confusion. So he conjoined the methods into one to have a graduated path. That's what we're trying to follow, the graduated path to enlightenment. Okay. So it begins with, for them, it's kind of easy because the path begins with kind of understanding past and future lives, how the mind continues, where the mind came from, and the Buddha exists. Somebody like the Buddha had existed. He showed a path. But all this for like in the Western culture is like you can't take it for granted. You have to check. Why is it possible? Why? Well, what is, for example, what is enlightenment? In the Buddhist goal, the practice, the result is to get to this stage of enlightenment. So you have to describe what that is. Once you describe what that is, you just say, well, how is it possible to get there? What's the means to get there? So these things are something we have to now check as Westerners, because you can't just take it like, oh, because the Tibetans believe it, the Indians believe it, everybody take it on. It's just, it doesn't work, because otherwise we're gulping down something without analyzing. In our tradition, we analyze a lot. See, some people, some may already have imprints, imprints from past lives. So then when they hear teachings on, mind, its potential, karma, rebirth, it becomes easier to accept. So why is that? Why is it easier for some and not others? So I would explain because of past lives imprints. Otherwise, it's difficult to explain why there's some. Even when you see some children, why is it that some are naturally more inclined towards gentleness, kindness, and compassion, and some not? Is it coming from the genes, from the biological temperament? Is it coming from the parents? It's difficult to describe it's coming from parents, because that means the parents are the main cause for their mind. So in Buddhism, it's like you suddenly get into this huge conflict because it doesn't work. Because again, you see, let's see, let's check. So the body, what we have now, is matter. Okay, do you agree? Atomic, right? What about the mind? What do you think that is? What concept do you have of mind? Okay, it's energy. Is it
different things, electrical signal,
right? So these energy hormonological, so energy, hormones producing them. Okay, so that energy, is it molecular? Is it structure? Is it atomic? Is it tangible? Okay, so that means that this. For example, when you think, is the thoughts matter? Is it form? Is it like the cupboard, table? Because thinking is mind, no? Huh?
It becomes form.
Thought can become a form. How?
To your body.
Yeah. Well, that means for you the thought is molecular, atomic, no? So for us in Buddhism, it's like, how can something which is physical matter produce something which is not physical? Because in the Buddhist context, mind is not physical. It's not matter. It's not energy. Well, energy. Yeah, because we don't have the word energy. Yeah, it's not. Well, it's not matter. Yeah, it's not molecular. So there's a huge. You see, the scientists might say, yeah, well, this mind comes from the brain. The brain is produced from the brain. So we'd say, well, if the mind is not molecular, it's not matter. How can something which is matter, brain, produce something which is non-matter? It doesn't make sense for us. So we have to check. So where Like in the body, the substantial cause, the main cause, is the sperm and the egg. So that's matter. That produces the fetus, and then then the nutrients as we grow up, eat whatever, grows the body. But the mind, it didn't come at that time when the fetus was produced. The fetus didn't produce the mind. Because we have to say, okay, at what moment, what caused the body to produce the mind? Or at what moment would the body produce the mind? What caused it? We're stuck because we say, well, if the mind is not matter, why would non-matter create? Why would matter create non-matter? Didn't make sense. No? So that's how we describe the mind is something separate, completely different to the body and mind, but linked. Yeah? Because the mind is linked to the brain. But just because the mind and the brain is linked, it doesn't mean the mind is produced by the brain. That's how we say, okay, the body is separate to the mind. Where did the mind come from? What made the mind come into that fetus at that particular time to make it living? Because when we say something is living, something sentient, like means feeling, thinking, perceiving, that's when something becomes sentient. When living, a living being, like the plants are living, trees are living, but they're not sentient because in the Buddhist context, it doesn't have a mind. Right? It doesn't have a feeling, so it doesn't have a thinking process, a perceiving process. So humans, what we see in our conventional world is humans and animals. Animals also have a sentience because they have a mind. Right? But then what, in that fetus, whether it's an animal or a human, what made that mind go into that form, that fetus? So we'd say it's coming from a continuity, like right now, every moment of our mind as a millisecond. I mean, if you had this thing that you turn over as the sands go through, every like split second is coming from the previous moment of that mind itself, right? So in that way, we continue, like going from this morning, last night, last evening, yesterday morning, the evening before that. The mind has a continuity, its own continuity. Right? It's not like the body's producing new moments of mind. The mind itself has its own continuity, and it's been going on since right at the beginning when the fetus started. So when the sperm and egg met. Yeah. So in some schools of Buddhism, there's a debate when the mind, a different form, entered that fetus. So some people say it's actually the very moment the sperm and the egg meet. Some people say 3 days. Some people say 2 hours. But it's as the sperm and egg meet, yeah, the mind. Yeah. That's when we have what we call the mind and body relations. So two phenomena, different causes, produces one thing, and on that thing we have a person. That's how we conventionally exist as a person. The whole problem in our lives is that we suddenly grasp onto this idea of a very strong self, me, um, independent of the body and mind, these two phenomena, body and mind. So due to that, as the basis, there's like a conventional self, a me. The thing is, the mind creates another image of the self, which is like so strong, so independent of the body and mind. And due to that, all the other states of mind evolve. The attachment, the very strong attraction, the very strong aversion that leads to anger, then the jealousy and the pride. So all the whole domino, all the whole spectrum of emotions, which in I don't know what psychologists would say, the different feelings. It's just coming from that principal idea of a very strong me that's kind of independent of the body and mind. Because we can't let go of the idea of a self and say, oh well, Buddhism doesn't talk about a self, but we have to identify which kind of self Buddhism doesn't talk about. It's a self that seems to exist completely independent of the body and mind. So kind of third self, which is somehow seems like out there controlling us. Somehow it feels like it's inside our physical body. Sometimes it feels like it's part of our mind. Like when we say we're meditating, the I am meditating. And there's something like something independent of the body and mind that's doing the meditation. Okay? So that independent thing doesn't exist and never existed. It's just that we fall into this trap of believing that it existed. And due to that kind of hallucination, we have all the other problems come. Like, because of that strong me, there's an attraction for something and you want it. You want it so badly that you might give up your life or you might hurt somebody to get it. When you don't want something, we also do the same thing. Strong aversion comes, strong anger, all due to trying to protect this kind of idea of a very strong me. So in the Buddhist concept, that's the whole uh, cause of all our difficult states. So we have to come at a practical level in our lives. When we have difficulty in our jobs or relationships or whatever, it's coming down to that kind of sense of me. I can't get what I want, and I'm getting what I don't want, and so that all these emotions come. So I don't know. Psychologists might call them feelings, but in Buddhism, it's quite simple. There's actually only three types of feeling. There's a pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, or a neutral feeling. And all the other spectrum of what we call anxiety, stress, it just comes as unpleasant. It's put it in one basket. Pleasant is like when we're happy. So pleasant sensation can also be mental and physical. Like physically you may not be so well, but mentally you may be all right. You may be neutral, or you may be actually quite pleasant. So you can check. Some people may have very strong diseases, life-threatening diseases, but their minds may be actually accepting, complete the situation, and even joyful to have that sickness. That's possible. Yeah? That's because so the physical sensation and mental sensation can be different. Yeah? It doesn't necessarily mean because you're unpleasant inside that you have to be unpleasant in your mental aspect. Right? So that's like for example, when you're upset, when you're really upset, doesn't happen very often, of course, but when you're really angry, when you have something nice in front of you that you normally like to eat, it won't be the same, right? So why is that? Because normally it's out there, it's pleasant for you, right? But when your mind's disturbed, somehow this thing doesn't bring you the same happiness. Even the taste might be different, because the anger is overwhelming the mental condition. But physically, sometimes it doesn't affect. So you see, the mind does affect the body, and the body does affect the mind. But you see, you can make a difference. That's the whole kind of goal in Buddhism, to see that difference. The mind is actually separate, and it's that what we're actually looking for. When we look for, in Buddhism, we normally say everybody is looking for happiness, doesn't want suffering, doesn't want any kind of pain, unpleasant sensation, mental or physical. We want pleasant sensations, so physical sensations and mental sensations. So why? Because a pleasant mental sensation brings calm and peace. So what are those things? So it's things like patience. When you have patience, and when you're patient with something, remember what kind of what kind of feeling it brings. It's a peaceful feeling. When you have loving kindness, not love like attachment love, when you have loving kindness, like really a genuine wish for others to be happy, it's a peaceful mind. It's not like a stressful mind. When you have compassion for others, compassion is a mind. It's a mind that wishes others to be free of suffering. It's a peaceful mind. You don't go to such a level as unbearable and it becomes neurotic. It's just, I wish the other beings to be free of suffering. So those states of mind bring pleasant sensations, and that's actually what if we go down deeply, that's what we're looking for. But most of the time, what's happening is we're running after the sensations, pleasant sensations, which actually don't last, because we're running after them in external objects, in the sensory objects, sounds, from music or whatever, or even nature, and then smells, taste, touch, sights. All these things we're positing will bring us happiness, and they do bring us a level of happiness, but it's very temporary. Yeah, I mean, there's only so much music you can listen to. There's only so much you can dance. Like I was in Turkey recently. There was a festival going on in the village nearby. It was a techno festival. So they invited me to give a little talk. I was like, embarrassed. There I was, and I thought, well, think about it. You came here in beautiful suns by the beach. There's only so much you can do with these pleasures, you know. There's only so long you can stay in the sea, right? There's only so long you can stay in the sun, because after a while, that warmth becomes unbearable, right? You go in the sea, that's wow, that's pleasant sensation. That becomes cooling, cooling, good. It becomes a bit too cold. You have to come out again. That first moment of coming out, wow, it's nice, you know. And it's strange because you came in the sea because of that heat, you know. And then that heat, oh, and it becomes unbearable. Then you want to go and listen to music, and it's so loud. The music, speakers are like, you know, it's high as the room, you know. And there's people standing next to it. Like, it's unreal. And like they're moving very slowly. So, but also so much you can listen to, you know, unless your ears burst, or you know, and there's so much your body can move. Because after some time, tired, right? So you have to sit, and that sitting down, wow, so nice, you know, physical sensation. And also maybe mentally, wow, the music stuff for a while. And then the wish, okay, I'm gonna come back to do it again. So that thing that made you tired, you come back into it, yeah. Mm. And then you get tired again to go away. So we're looking for this kind of, we're actually looking for a stable sensation of peace and happiness, and we never get it because we're running after things that are unstable. It's like trying to grab dry sand. It just goes straight through the hand. We can't. We're trying to cling on to these things that bring us happiness, and it will never bring us real happiness. It does bring us happiness for sure. Ice cream is pleasant, not for everybody, but it brings a pleasant sensation, you know. So there are these pleasant things, but if we fix this idea they're really going to bring me stable happiness, we're always disappointed, and that's when we're constantly clinging, going on to this and that, and it becomes never ending. And the mind is doing that. The mind is projecting that there's going to be happiness from that particular object, that particular thing, that drink or whatever. You know? It doesn't happen, so then we have to let go. So that's in the mind can also see it. We have that capacity. We see it doesn't really bring it, and then we can say, well, if that doesn't bring it, where does it come from? Where does this stable happiness come from? So we have to look, you know, check when we were kids, when we were growing up. It really comes in internally. We're happy. Internally, we're quiet. The mind is calm. You know, the mind is not constantly grabbing after the sensorial sensation, because actually it's the internal mind that, you know, brings us real lasting happiness. So that's what the Buddha tried to show, that, you know, running after the external things doesn't bring that happiness that instinctively we're kind of longing for, but we don't know because we probably never taught it, like culturally. In schools, it doesn't teach it. We're taught to go out for the outside objects, so we run after that because we weren't educated. So now the Buddha said there isn't. Of course, the pleasure is outside, but it really comes from inside. So inside means developing the mind, the good qualities of the mind. Right? So when we say mind, you know, it's like this potpourri. There's mind, but it has so many different levels, like nuances. Like from when I say nuances, like from strong level to a very subtle level. So, you know, you have anger, you have different levels of anger, not just one type of anger. You know, the gross anger you may have had as a kid, you don't have now. Like somebody takes your toys, wow, it's a drama, you know, because it's your, your toy. But now it's something more subtle. Maybe it's your, I don't know, somebody's looking at your job position or something, you know, it's like, oh, you know. So there's these levels of anger that, you know, become more and more subtle. Attachment, you know, attachment and desire, which is one of our biggest minds that controls us, different levels. You know, the attachments we had when we were kids or adolescents isn't the same now. Hopefully, it's not the same now, but it's different. Maybe to different objects we have the same level. You know? So we have also positive states. You know, we have moments of loving kindness, patience, compassion, equanimity. All these minds. So it's like there's a mental continuum, a mind, and then we have different mental factors inside that mind. So our whole goal, if you want to be happy, peaceful, whatever, is to increase the levels of the constructive minds of love, compassion, patience, you know, and to reduce For like example, like pride and jealousy, strong craving, especially anger. These minds we reduce more and more, increase the other ones, and we get peace. We get happiness. You have to check, if that's true. So don't to check that. You have to do it yourself. Someone can tell you. Can tell you it's like I can tell you all the benefits of not smoking, but if you don't, you don't stop it, it doesn't work, right? So we have to do some effort into it. So how do we do that? We become aware consciously of the disadvantages of those minds. We have to be conscious. As soon as we get angry, we have to see every time we get angry how it doesn't help us one little bit. We may have this little mind saying, "You're justified. You at that person or that situation, you have to act in that way." But you see, when something's not right in our lives, some person or some difficult situation, of course we can react, but we don't have to react with anger. We have a choice. We don't necessarily have to be angry to show that we don't like this situation or this person. We can react in a calm way. And the thing is, we haven't learned that. We haven't been taught that. Of course, for some people it does come naturally, but some people it doesn't. When I say it comes naturally, so for me, I would explain because they're the habits from past lives, right? So it brings into this life, and it comes more easily. So then you have to check, which one is coming the most in you. You have to be honest, which one's coming the most, and then say, is there something that can reduce it? And if there is, how often am I doing it? How often am I putting it into advice? So, like a lot of the times, like in our daily lives, when we see something that's not going right, we put a remedy to it. Whether it's our health or it's something, for example, being vegetarian or something. You see it's not right. You can see the abattoirs, the suffering animals are going through. So, well, why is it? Why are humans doing that so that we can eat this when we don't have to? You know? So then you make a conscious decision that you reduce it and you probably stop it. Or like different health benefits, from smoking or whatever. You see the disadvantages and you stop it. So only you can stop it. Yeah. Of course, you have the conditions around you where people support you and people say, "Yeah, very good." And you're probably with people more who don't smoke and who encourage you not to smoke. Then it's easier. But only you make that decision and then you make the practice. The same with the mind thing. So only we can see. We have to be conscious when those minds aren't working for us. When we're following jealousy or maybe pride of our status or upbringing or education, whatever. We have to see that's blocking us connecting with others in a very compassionate way. So we say, okay, what can I do to reduce that? She put a remedy. I mean, if you can't of course do it overnight, because some of these minds are very strong. So you put little by little, dose by dose, like a medicine. You take a medicine, right? To reduce it. And then slowly, hopefully you see the mind improving, and then there's a wish even stronger to reduce those negative states of mind, and it becomes almost automatic. In the beginning, it might be artificial, but in the end, it becomes like instinctive, automatic. So, which means it's not how do you say, contrived. It's not coming through thoughts anymore, right? Like even our emotions, say love. It seems so heartfelt. Like I'm not talking about attachment love, like when you're in love. I'm talking about love for somebody. Saying, "Wow, I wish that person to be really happy." So again, happiness in Buddhism doesn't mean say they're an alcoholic saying, "Well, I wish they get their next fix or something." We're saying happy means that may they be able to leave those situations which bring them unhappiness. So may they have happy states of mind, contentment. Also, you can say conventional levels of desire. May they have their good job positions, may they respect, may they have appreciation, may they be all kind of things, may their minds be stable. So we wish them happiness. And that comes instinctively to people we're already close to. Yeah. Strange, So it's like to our parents or our siblings or relations. But to other people, it doesn't come so naturally. So why is that? Because the mind has habituated to see them as someone close. The close people immediately is like an instinctive love, automatic without thinking. But for other people, it's difficult. So we can train our mind to do that by training to see other people as close. To see like, well, why am I only attached to or having this loving kindness to people who I'm close to, and in fact, everybody, in a way, is close. So in Buddhism, it's a huge new ball game because you think of past lives. But even if you're not thinking of past lives, thinking of this life, you don't know at any time when somebody who's a stranger can become a friend, a close person, because maybe you share the same interests, maybe they support you in something, maybe they yeah, you exchange good ideas, and then they become close, and from that point the mind starts to label friend, and then it's like an immediate instinctive feeling of may they be happy, may they have all their wishes coming, may they have all their ordinary wishes also and spiritual wishes, may they come true. So you see, the mind did that. Yeah? Before the mind had this kind of block against that, but the mind can do that when with training, it can do that. So that's where this training we call meditation, because we make the mind habituated with a certain type of thought, right? Like may all beings, may this person be happy, may they have what they need in their lives. So then you can do the same thing with even people who are difficult for us. Why? Because even the difficult people, they're humans just like us. They want to have happiness. They don't want to have any kind of suffering, physical unpleasant sensation, mental unpleasant sensation, just like us. But just due to maybe their mental disturbance, or how they see us, they project their ideas on us. Maybe they're hurting us in some way. Okay, so we get hurt, but it doesn't stop us from wishing them happiness. No, why don't they also deserve our wish for happiness? Because they're just humans, and they were also, before our mind labeled them as kind of difficult people, they were just like strangers, neutral people. And because we received something we didn't like, or mind didn't like, hurt in some way, because we were so attached to our respect or appreciation, maybe we didn't get that, and then it gets hurt. So we put that person a little bit to the side. But that person may be doing it, whatever they do to us, because they're under the control of their own, what we call afflicted or negative states of mind. So they're kind of a puppet, a bit like us. It doesn't mean they're excused from doing it, but it's almost like they're under the control of their mind. So it's kind of sad that way. It's not a pity, but it's like, so it's sad that they're being controlled by their mind and they do these actions and they hurt people like us. So how wonderful if they didn't have those minds, if they were peaceful. So we can have that in our mind. So to our friends, neutral people, and also difficult. And the mind does all that, maybe that person doesn't change to you. Maybe the neutral person doesn't change, but you can still have the mind of loving kindness to me. So the more we do that, the more the mind becomes peaceful wherever you go. Wherever you go. So not just in Swiss and Zurich, wherever you go with that mind, it protects us. Because one of the natural ways of loving kindness protecting us is that the anger is stopped. Because you can't have loving kindness and anger at the same time. It's two opposite states of mind. You can't have them in the same continuum, or the same object at the same time. Obviously, you're protected wherever you, at the airport, train stations, wherever you go. When they're really difficult situations, the planes are delayed, the trains are delayed, there's strikes, whatever, you try and have that peaceful state of mind. Doesn't mean you sit there like dormant and say, okay, you can try and get another plane or whatever, it doesn't mean like, patience, I mean like you just stay like a carpet. You react, but you react without anger, without wishing to harm, without saying harmful speech. Also harmful thoughts, because the mind can create all kinds of projections. It projects all kinds of stuff, depending on what we like, what we want to hear, what we don't want to hear. Right? This is where all misery comes from. Yeah? Like for example, when we see the mind of anger, it starts with minor irritation. So where does that come from? Because we're dealing with our sensory perceptions, sight, sound, smell, taste. When it's something is unpleasant to us physically, also mentally, because we can have also unpleasant mental sensation. When it's unpleasant, there's a sensation of wanting to push away. Then becomes a little bit more unpleasant irritation. It's more becomes unbearable. Right? A little more, then it becomes anger. That in the Buddhist context is really a wish to harm. So anger for us isn't just kind of minor irritation or frustration. It's really a strong wish to harm. That comes because we didn't watch what was happening. That unpleasant sensation came and it became more and more and more, and it became unbearable. So you see what happens normally, generally, there's an unpleasant sensation, or because it could be also thought, because you may be sitting in your room alone, right, and suddenly it goes back to the past of an event that happened, and then you start. What happens is you remember it, an unpleasant sensation comes. It could be physical, could be in the mind, like a stress comes, and then what happens is, so you have a choice there to follow it, not follow it. So if the choice is to follow it, what happens is the mind starts to ruminate. Yeah, well, how dare that person said that to me? I'm gonna try and that wasn't fair. It wasn't fair. Like, or it's an unpleasant physical or sensation. Oh, it's really like a mosquito comes. You hear the buzzing, it lands, and it's like the first it's like a pinch. Well, it's not too bad because like, you take it for 2 minutes. Well, it's a lot of blood they're taking. It's tiny, but the pain seems immense. But the mind makes it immense because it doesn't want it. The body's reacting. I don't want that unpleasant feeling. And where's that coming from? Attachment to a pleasant feeling, because we want to have nice, touch like this and the cool wind going. So when something's unpleasant, it comes normally because we're attached to something. So we're attached to our body. We're attached to a comfort of our body. So this little being is taking that comfort away. It's giving us something we don't want, an unpleasant feeling. So it's coming and biting. It's going stronger and stronger. That's too much. Then you have the choice. You can blow it away. Or some people take its life. You don't have to. You don't have to take its life. You can just blow it away and go away. So if you get one, and then you blow away, another one comes on the back, then it becomes unbearable for me anyway. Because it's too much. Can't you put the mosquito net down? That's, you see, the mind of irritation has gone to such a level. It's like I can't take it anymore. It's unacceptable. I can't tolerate anymore. Same with the situation, or with heat or whatever. It's cold or rain, or it's a person is talking all the time about something you don't want to hear. He says, "Oh, okay, that bit's interesting. That bit's not." Then he's like, "I don't want to hear that anymore." So then it becomes at a level like, stop. So our mind did that, you see, and then what happens is the mind exaggerates that. It's really terrible. It's so painful. And so, of course, when you said that the mind will react, yeah, it is painful, and maybe the whole thing gets tense, so it becomes even more painful. The body, the muscle saying, "Let go," and then so the mind is the same thing. That person, wow, you only start to focus on the negative side of that person, or the situation. Zurich, I mean, of course, beautiful lakes, trees in the summer, fantastic. But some people, wow, it's too much, too many people, or the birds, they sing too loudly. It's true. I mean, some people, if they go into retreat, because their idea of retreat is to have complete silence, and the bird starts to sing. Wait, how's that? I found this place, a little hut in the forest. I mean, where are you going to find a place there is no noise? I mean, or not noise, sound. It could be a cricket, it could be an ant. Ants don't make much noise, but even, it could be some. So when the mind is so sensitive, even the smallest thing will react, because the mind is not trained to accept. It didn't meditate enough to accept the difficult things. So actually, it's all in our hands. I mean, Buddhism is just teaching that our happiness and us, what we call it, suffering or dissatisfaction, is really in our hands. How when things appear to us, how we accept them, how we take it, it's really, we are in control. We don't give anybody else power. We don't give the angry person power over how we feel. We don't give the unpleasant or the pleasant sensations or what we find attractive power to control us. We can control it. We have that power. That's what Buddhism is essentially trying to teach, or you want, like, mind. that potential is really in our hands. So we have to become conscious and say, well, what can we do? What's a method to do it? And we start to do it. It's like when we have a sickness, we try and find out where it came from. Is there something to reduce it? And then we try to take a medicine. Yeah? But of course, the medicine can be applied. You have to have the kind of the advice of how the medicine can be applied. For some people, a very drastic medicine, a very strong medicine. For some people, they need limited doses at limited time. So you have to check which is your worst kind of negative emotion, what's the method for it, and how to put it into practice, and how at what level you can put it into practice. You can't go into retreat for a year because suddenly you see, wow, yes, my afflicted mind is terrible, it's controlling me. You can't because you're not ready for that. So you have to do it in your lifestyle, in your where you are now. Start to practice slowly, slowly. If you see, because anger, anger is one of our worst ones, right? See, and it's normally coming due to an attachment to something. So attachment, right? In Buddhism is defined as when you see pleasant uh, objects or even mental objects, mental constructs, and you glorify it. You add to it which doesn't exist. The pleasantness is there. You can't get rid of that. Ice cream is delicious. Can't get rid of it. Right? But if you add to it's really delicious, then you're in trouble, right? Right. All right. Zurich is really beautiful place to live in. You get into trouble. It is a beautiful place to live. So we add things to something that's pleasant, which is not. The Swiss chocolate is delicious, or not really delicious, because there is other chocolate which is also delicious. So things like this, and then so when you attach to that, and it doesn't happen that way, it doesn't go the way you want, then the irritation comes because you fixed that that's going to bring you the happiness because it's out there really. Out there is the desired object. And that's when we get into trouble. Because it doesn't exist out there. We, when we're looking for that pleasure out there, it doesn't bring us, then the irritation comes and anger. So the anger comes in a way because it starts with irritation, it's the unpleasant sensation, whether physical, mental, whatever. And we start to exaggerate it. He's really a bastard. He said that to me. He said, 100% you see the negative qualities of that. Negative side of that person. So even the Dalai Lama says, scientists, well, someone American scientist, I think, said that when anger is there, it's like 80% you're just seeing, and 80-90% you're seeing the negative side of that person or the situation. Kind of proven to lab tests. And so of course the mind reacts with anger, it's aversion. It doesn't like it. Yeah. Because it's not getting what you want. You want to hear beautiful sounds, see beautiful sights, beautiful smells, not going that way, the irritation comes, the irritation develops, and the anger comes, and you're only seeing the negative side. You can't see one single quality of the situation or the person or whatever. Right? So the method is to try and see the qualities. It must be a good side. Every cloud has a silver lining. I wonder where that came from. It's true. Like you see the Dalai Lama, he had to leave Tibet because the Chinese came. But he doesn't go, oh my gosh, well, yes, well, in a way, it's good because now Buddhism is spread in the West. No? Good. And he met so many other different spiritual traditions, and he's very keen on getting harmony between spiritual traditions. He said, wow, it's wonderful. So he's focusing on that because, yes, I lost my place, and there's this, and the country's going to, well, religious autonomy is not there. Of course, you can focus on that. But he says, no, let's look at the other side. Yeah, because we can't tolerate certain situations because we can't see the qualities anymore of that. Even the situations we saw the benefits, then we forget because suddenly because maybe our self-concern or what we want it doesn't happen. Then what was a quality at one time, a benefit one time, becomes a negative thing. Look at certain marriages, together, promise for life, whatever. Almost like at that time can't bear to live without each other. It's almost unthinkable because it's almost like they're my other half. Because before you were half a person, now you're half, so now you're one, and so to think of going back to a half is like, oh, I mean, I could, like this maths doesn't make sense, you know. But suddenly, after some years, the other half isn't really the half that makes you whole. So you want to be a half and another whole, you know. So it's like the person you cherish so much, whoa, see only the, you know, you can't bear to be in the same bed with the next person next to you. Unbearable. Even the smell is like, whoa. You know? How? Because in the beginning it was like, whoa, fantastic. You know, must be together. And then suddenly it changes. And then the mind focuses only on the negative side. So even the smallest word, the look, whoa. Oh, amazing. If all this in the marriage is like, whoa, celebration, photo time, divorce, in silence in a little office, and no cameras, nothing. No? Cool. So yeah, the mind did that, you know, the whole situation. So the potential of the mind is that we can improve it. We have the power to improve it. We're not under the control of anybody. We can't blame anybody out there to control our mind. We have to do the work. We can be there can be conditions, like, you know, hearing a talk, reading a book, whatever. There's conditions, being led in a meditation. But then, and we have to do that work. You have to bring it out into practice in our daily lives, and that continues. It strengthens, stronger and stronger. Okay, I finished. Any questions on that? Any doubts? Or was it any people that don't believe in that? Do you still believe energy is the mind is matter? No, no, it could be. I mean, it could be, which means that. Well, what happens at death then? It disappears with the body, I guess. The mind. Yeah, it's possible. You can think that it's possible to think like that. Yeah. But anyway, if you believe, even if you believe in that, the mind is now in this body. What can you do to improve it? You know, how can you improve it? Do you believe you can improve it? So how? What method would you give to improve it? Yeah. And thoughts become emotions. Mm-hmm. One thing, yeah, one will because it's related like that. It must be matter, yeah. Can feelings come before thoughts? Can you have a feeling without stop the feeling? Mm. Like say a mosquito comes, can that unpleasant feeling be stopped completely? Can it become pleasant? No, no. Yeah, that's yeah. If you take it off, but if it keeps going, yeah, yeah, sure. No, but in the act of it taking,
I
because
can
there's a
say it
feeling. No?
can. I
How?
actually enjoy watching a mosquito.
Yeah, yeah, but that's your physical,
Oh, you mean the pain?
yeah, the
I
physical
actually
sensation.
enjoy
Because
it.
for us, it's two different. It's physical and mental, right? That's a physical sensation. Mentally, it can do something else. You could hate it, or you could like it. You want it to, but the
Yeah.
physical sensation of that, you know,
Even the sensation itself is different.
be-
Associates.
well, it becomes less.
Yeah, or even becomes pleasurable.
Oh, that's not masochist. Mm. Yeah, it could be. I think it becomes less, for sure. It's like with other, like cancer and stuff, no? People who dwell less on it, they accept it's happening. I think the pain, oh, no, I haven't experienced it, but I heard it can get less.
I guess it's like the matter of how much effort you put into it. So you can of course be thinking, wow, it's really or oh so great, I have this opportunity, you know,
Mm.
I share, I have 5 liter of blood. This is like 0.002 millimeters.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it
right.
looks
I'll
really
give some,
cool.
give a
It
little
looks
bit of.
really cool because it comes like very tiny, and then it like growing, and it takes like long time. And like, wow, this is like so cool. So like you don't absolutely feel the pleasantness of it. No, you don't. I mean, I guess it still exists, but you so much don't pay attention. Like
Yeah,
you said,
that's
it
it. There,
didn't
you know,
exist.
we have this thing called Buddhism. What's called a mind that's it's appearing. The object is appearing, but not ascertained. Have you heard that in?
Yeah.
Yeah. Object appears, not ascertained. So, classic examples like when you're really engrossed in your football match or whatever. You know. Yeah, or music, maybe music. Yeah, something. You're so engrossed in that object. Yeah, you say you know you're on the metro or something. You got your head, and things happening around you, but you're so much in this that you can't. Of course, somebody walked in front of you. But you can't. Somebody asked you who was it. You haven't got a clue. You have yeah, vaguely somebody walked, but you didn't recognize. You know because they didn't like that because your mind maybe is now so engrossed in the mental side. Ah, how wonderful! I can give this little drop of blood to this being who's been hungry the whole night. You know, this joy, that joy overrides the
Children
physical.
waiting already
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
food.
Oh gosh! Finally, I was able to give this, and so yeah, then that joy maybe yeah. I mean, think about when you're in love. So in love and love is different, right? In Buddhism, and being in love is something to do with more attachment and like grasping. So that sensation, you're so joyous. Other things become like meaningless, no? Yeah. I don't know. Or when you fall out of love, whoa, such a huge tragedy. Everything, all the things you used to like, well, nothing. Can't eat, can't sleep. Yeah, I mean, I remember in Kopan. Kopan Monastery is founded by Lama Zopan Lamishi. It's a monastery in Nepal, near Kathmandu, another city near Kathmandu. So this monastery has a reputation of having a very good meditation course from November to December, 1 month every year. So it started in the 70s and it's still going, still popular now. And every month during the year, there's a 10-day course of general Tibetan Buddhism. But that 1 month course is quite famous now. So that's where I kind of started. I began there. I remember in one of the pujas there was these tiny little Tibetan monks. I think I was about 8 years old, and we had this long ceremony and ritual, and I was behind. I wasn't a monk then. I was sitting behind. And this young monk, he had a mosquito come, and he was aware. He looked at it. Whoa, Well, he didn't do that. He just looked. I said, "Wow, fantastic! At this age, they're already learning to give and be patient and transform." I was really impressed. I was like, and then it gave him this like getting bigger. You could see the blood coming in. Almost towards the end, he looked and he just killed it.
Oh, he killed it?
He killed it. I was like, wow, I was so disappointed. I thought, how is that? This is like this monastery is my lama's monastery, and they're training them up. And how come they don't train them even to do that simple thing of not taking life? Then I thought, of course, but they're kids, right? They just do like that. For them, it's just games. Yeah, it's quite disappointing. So anyway, but that monastery is very few anyone's interest is really good course in every November to December. But yeah, so some people have that act of just taking, for fun and killing. And some people really give. They want to give. I mean, there's this famous story of Lama Zopa at night giving the blood away to mosquitoes. I think it was in India. It was very hot, and he had a mosquito net, but it was rolled up, and he tied it up, and he purposely kind of undid his vest, and there was mosquitoes all over his back. He was meditating, and he has an attendant, an Australian monk, and he has to come and check if Lama Zopa's getting, because normally Lama Zopa, he doesn't sleep very much. He's kind of taking this vow, this promise that he will always sit meditating and practicing, so he doesn't sleep very much. So the attendant comes in to check if he's resting or not. So he came in, he saw the mosquito up, mosquitoes on his back. Oh gosh, he did chase the mosquitoes off. He put the vest down, he closed the mosquito net and put it over his bed again, and he went back to sleep. A few hours later, Roger, his name is Roger, he came back. Remember, she had tied the mosquito net off it, put the vest up, all the mosquitoes back on. He said, well, that's Rinpoche. He's like constantly thinking of ways how he can benefit others. In this way, even at night time, give the blood away. Yes. For me, it'd be just unthinkable, even to have one, because for me, it's not the blood, it's more the malaria and the dengue fever. My precious body, I mustn't get that disease. So, I mean, here maybe I can try to give something away. But it's risky because even Europe is coming now. Dengue is coming.
Very risky.
So do a little bit. So Rinpoche is nothing like, doesn't care, and just give. I mean, of course he has the wisdom, of course, but because he's just not. It's like people like Mother Teresa, when they're working with the leprosy. It's just they don't have the thought, oh me, what I might catch. No, just like they're out there for others. So that's the level that the mind can be trained if we want to. Yeah? Just by of course, meditating. You don't have to sit like that to meditate. You just sit and think. You don't have to sit. You walk and you think, why am I making this judgments of only having love for my friends and family, not for the neutral people walking around, working in the shops. Why? And why do I really even not have love, but have aversion for these people who are difficult for me? The mind can change. I want to respect them. Respect they're human beings, also the animals. Respect that they're living beings, and have that genuine wish. May they have happiness. So no matter what they do for us, maybe. So we can do that. The mind can train to do that, which is exactly the kind of level of mind that the people like the Dalai Lama, Lama Zopa, they've done. Because you have to meet them to see it. Yeah, you have to meet them, see how they react. They don't have this kind of strong aversion or pushing people away or discrimination. They're just they're equal with everybody. Whoever's in the room, they're equal. Whether it's a sound recordist or the person who's interviewing them, they have the equal mind of just a being doing their job. Because of that. So yeah, it's all training. And training, I mean, this habituation is what we in Buddhism we call meditation. It doesn't mean just sitting. Of course, there are meditations where you sit and just calm the mind. It's called kind of placement meditations because you're placing the mind on one object and you try and keep it there. Of course, it calms the mind a lot. So we'll do that. Yeah, in a while for lunch. So those are good minds because they're calm. They kind of concentrate the mind, but they don't fundamentally make a big effect on our daily lives because it's difficult to take that mind out into our daily lives. So the other minds, the analytical minds, we think, well, is anger really, really helping me? Every time I follow it, is it helping me? When you make the choice, it doesn't help. You make a choice to follow different, like loving kindness, make that a natural state of mind, and that helps. Yeah, that really helps. That you can take out more in daily life. But again, it's training. The mind has to train to habituate until it becomes automatic. As automatic as when we get up in the morning and go for coffee. It's just like we don't think, oh, I might, you just go for coffee, right? It's automatic. In that way, also the other states of mind, right? Well, patience, when you can tolerate difficult things. So it has to start from a little, a small level. You just start what's annoying you at the moment, in a little way, and then try to accept it and try to make the mind stronger in the whole day, and then the next day, and the day after. Like I was with a couple if I come here, the wife was every noise the husband made was like, unbearable. I thought this is normal. Like, he searches something. Why are you making that noise? I'm looking for something to a lid for the pan. Why don't you make so much noise? Yeah, but it's somewhere in here. I'm trying to... So that noise was unbearable for her. Like what? So you see, I mean, yeah, of course you have a choice. If you want to have that state of mind, you can have it. But if you think that it's not normal, it doesn't help me, then you try and change it. So maybe okay, he's looking for something, and to look for it, sometimes it makes noise because metal against metal makes a sound, right? So unavoidable. Okay, so let's do a little bit of meditation. So to meditate, normally in our tradition, you try and keep the back as straight as possible. So the physical posture isn't a huge thing. It doesn't mean you have to sit like this, like the Buddha has, his legs crossed. It's a very good position to sit in because they're very stable, but you don't have to. Not essential. So even in the chair, the thing is to keep the back straight, the feet firmly placed on the floor in front of you, so right angles. The hands are normally in our tradition placed on the lap like this. So the thumbs touch, the right hand goes on the left, gently, and the thumbs are touching. So why? Because there is like a certain meridian channels within our body, and there are meridians running through our thumbs, and it's kind of a very useful point to have. Also, it's quite a good indicator if you get too sleepy, because if you get too sleepy, they're going to go like this. So it's like a little. So then, back straight, shoulders are level, so that the arms are not too close to the body, a little bit of space. Why? Because it gets the air coming through. Because if the arms are too close, there's too much heat, and what happens is there's a tendency for you to get sleepy, sleep coming more easily. It gets too warm. The head is not too far back up. It's not too far low down. Because if it's too high, they say it's more easy for the mind to get scattered and go to distraction. If it's too low, it gets too sleepy. So you have to have kind of right angle. And it's almost like there's a line between the chin and the navel, as possible, drop line. And imagine there's like a string going from your crown to the ceiling, and it's gently pulling up your vertebra a little bit straight, some space. And normally the tongue, as your mouth is gently closed, the tongue should be resting on the upper palate, right, just behind your teeth. Keep the tongue towards the upper palate. It stops. I mean, if you're meditating a long time, it stops too much saliva coming, so stops you drooling, meditating, and your jaws are very relaxed. Your teeth are just gently together. So the eyes are also a little bit important. Normally, it's advised to keep the eyes a little bit open to get the light coming in. So you're not focusing on anything, like, not focusing on the chocolate. Just get the light coming in, because it keeps you a little bit awake. Because what happens is, again, the tendency when your eyes are closed, because normally we close your eyes to sleep. So sleepiness might come more easily if your eyes are completely closed. But for beginners, it's advised to start with the eyes closed, and gently, as you get more used to keeping the object, keep the eyes open just a little bit. Now you can see also with some of the statues and the images of Buddhas, the eyes aren't closed, they're actually a little bit open. They're looking on the ground, they're gazing gently on the ground. Again, it's an important point because it's not the eyes that are meditating. Because sometimes in our tradition we focus on something, like a mental image, we visualize something. It's not the eyes that are doing it, it's a mind that's doing it. Okay, so gently get into your position which is comfortable for you. Okay, so now we're going to start with something called a body scan, which means you take the mind, or one aspect of the mind. It's called awareness. So that awareness you now bring into different parts of the body. So let's start from the crown, becoming aware of the different sensations of your crown area, the top of your head. Now come down to the forehead. I'm gently aware of any kind of sensations, if there's a breeze touching the forehead, in the area between the eyebrows. now with that same awareness, you come down around the eyes, becoming aware of the eyelids being gently closed, fluids inside the eyes. Check if there's any tension around the corner of the eyes, under the eye. Now across the face and down to the mouth, lips are gently closed. Around the mouth, check if there's any tension of the muscles. Now the jaws, make sure the jaws are relaxed. We have tension there. So here what happens is when you find different areas of tension, you try to go deeply into those areas with this awareness. And you gently tell or kind of give a signal to relax, to let go. And gently coming down to the throat area. Now go to the back of the shoulders. Pay particular attention here because that's where we often hold a lot of tension. Again, with that awareness, you try to relax. Now let's go down back, the muscles, spine. Becoming aware of the weight of your torso on your hips, whether you're sitting on the cushion or the chair. Feel the contact, feel the sensations. Now going down the thighs, becoming aware of the crossing of the legs, or however the legs are, the sensations around there, going past the knee, going down into the calf muscles, the ankles, heels, soles of the feet, down into the toes. And with that awareness, look for any areas that you're tense and tightness, and gently begin to relax those areas. Okay, now gently come back up from the toes, the feet. Back through the knees. Sometimes check the knees, sometimes we have difficulty there. You can go back into the knees for a while. And back up the thighs, the hips. Now coming back to the front of the body, so the abdomen, diaphragm, becoming aware of the sensations as you breathe in and breathe out. Now going up the chest. Again, as you're breathing in, see how the chest is expanding. Try to feel the whole movement of the air in the lungs. Become aware of the heart beating. Now gently come back to the shoulders. Come down the arms. Again, becoming aware of the sensations in the arms as the cooling as the wind is touching, or the clothes against the arms. down the elbows, forearms, the wrists, and into the hands. They pay particular attention in the hands, palms, fingers, thumbs are touching. Check the sensations. Is it cooling, heat, is it moisture, warmth? Come back up again from the hands, up into the arms and the shoulders. Back into the throat, to the neck, back of the head, come back to the crown. Now become aware of the whole body, seated, relaxed. And now that same awareness we bring now to the face. Now from the face we go just concentrate a little bit more closely to the upper lip, the nostrils, the nose. Now very gently just become aware of the inhalation and exhalation. So it's the air is entering the body and leaving the body. Just gently become aware of the flow. So first the sensation, the touch. As the air touches the nostrils, or could be the upper lip. Try to become interested happening with each breath. Sometimes it's long, sometimes the exhalation is short, sometimes cool. Pay attention just to that, so nothing else to do, just the breath. there's different thoughts coming, we just let them go. Don't try to add to them or follow them. But to remind yourself, your only job right now is to watch that breath. I'm more and more in tune with the different sensations around nostrils or the upper lip, the areas coming and going. Just focus on that. Finding it difficult to stay really on the breath, what you can do is you start this method of counting. Keep your breath normal, natural, and every breath, inhalation and an exhalation, count 1. Next exhalation, 2. You go up like this to 10 without losing count, without over counting. If any of that happens, you have to really start back at 1 again. So it's like a little test. See if you can really keep on the breath. So if you need to, you can do that. But if you don't need to, just stay on the breath as much as you can. Go up to 10, you start again, another cycle, till the mind becomes more and more in tune, just being on the become aware of the kind of clear nature of your mind as all the thoughts slowly subside and the mind perceives it's outside, the sounds, the birds, whatever. You just leave it like that, perceiving sound. Keep it on the breath. So we indicate whatever energy we've we've produced here from trying to concentrate, trying to calm the mind. Goes for ourselves to be able to see the real true potential of our minds, develop it completely, its purified, awakened state, and thereby be a benefit to every living being. Relax posture. Okay. Waking up time. That's good, no? Did everyone fall asleep? I wasn't watching, so. He fell asleep. Didn't snore, I think. Yeah, so the thing is, people can, because when you meditate like this, right, there's the obstacles are lethargy, where it becomes very dull and sleepy, or excitement, where you just can't keep on the object. You're scattered, so much going on. Scattering. So the thing is, try and avoid both. Keep it just on the object. So the object we chose today was the breath, which is something easy, normally easy because it's always with us. Right? There's two ways to meditate on the breath. Well, many ways. But one of the main two ways is here, the sensation here, or here. Here, I think it's coming off from the Burmese tradition. I think it was Mahasi Sayadaw from like in the 50s. For him, breath meditation means putting the sensation here. So as you breathe in, you see the diaphragm. He inflates, the breath inflates, the stomach inflates, and you breathe out. You put your awareness completely just on that sensation. One good thing is, because it's down here, the mind gets more settled down. It does really matter, where you focus. Like, if you keep your mind up on this area, it's more tendency to be more excited in a way. Down here, it gets more stable, so even more. But for some people, it's difficult, so you can choose here, sensation here. So then, what happens if you choose it? Try not to mix, do all kinds of other stuff, because that's your main object. Try and focus on that. So, see, normally, okay, when you meditate, it's the mind that's meditating. So it's difficult to meditate. It's a mental consciousness. You can't get like a calm mind using an external object. I can't put a piece of chocolate as my meditation object, and I can't generate. Normally, you can't generate a concentrated mind on a physical object because it's your eye consciousness that's doing it, and your eye consciousness is changing constantly, and the chocolate is changing constantly, right? So with those things which are fluctuating, you can't have a concentrated mind. So you see, even the breath, right? It's actually changing every second, right? So you have different sensations, whatever. So the thing is, what they say is, what happens is as you get more and more concentrated, you lose the actual physical sensation and becomes in the end a mental object. So in some of these traditions, like in the Burmese tradition, etc., what they say is that what happens is the breath becomes a mental object. It becomes a mental object for the mind. It might become like a ball of light or just a space, like a kind of a form of light. And that's what happens. You focus in the end on that. As soon as you sit, you go into this object of mind, of a light. So in the beginning, it's just breath, watching the breath, whatever sensations, and it is calming. It is beginning to calm because just by keeping the mind on one kind of because the breath is neutral, one neutral object, and you purposely with the intention of keeping it there, all the other stuff starts to, like all butterflies start to flutter away. You're just keeping it calm, and the mind will get calm. That's why one of the main objects in most meditations, whether it's religious or non-religious, breath is a central object because it's a neutral object. Anybody can do it, and it will generally calm the mind, and you will get more and more peaceful. I mean, if you keep doing it continually, I mean, that's the thing, continuity. So, like, say every day, 10 minutes. It's better to do 10 good minutes of quality time than 1 hour of sitting and your mind all over the place of work and what you're going to do. You may look good. You may be able to sit perfectly for an hour, but your mind, you wasted a lot of time because you've been meditating. So you've been all over the place. It's better to do 10 minutes continually every day than just like 1 hour here and there. So that then eventually becomes longer. So maybe 15 minutes, a couple of weeks, then maybe half an hour, something like that. Then you'll notice some change. When in that session, mind's calming down, and you can take it hopefully outside. The purpose is to bring it outside the daily activity. So when things are running hectic around you, to keep that space, to keep that concentrated mind, it will be difficult, but it's possible. And then what happens is you react to that situation around you in a different way because you're coming from a different space. Mind is now more controlled. You don't react in the normal ways you would react normally. So what's happening, I don't know if you notice, what's happening is that you have a choice, you're on the breath, sounds like the birds are feeding. It's actually a sound, you can already immediately label birds, but you can just sound, it's just a sound, right? You just leave it like that. So yes, I'm hearing, I'm hearing sound, or leave it like it's, you go back to the breath. And the more you do it, the more interested you become in this thing, the less you're going to get bothered with stuff outside. Right? So you're controlling what's happening now. You're controlling how you react to what's outside. So normally we react almost spontaneously. You hear, like, want it more. Here, don't like, don't want it. Reversion. So here you just have to deal with it because you're sitting there. So if you want to, of course, you can lose the breath. Forget the breath and go, oh, how wonderful, wonder what kind of bird it is. You can do that, but that's not the object of meditation, right? The object is to stay with this breath or this here. So obviously we're kind of now controlling how we're reacting. We're giving space, how when the mind contacts something, how we react. We have a choice. Yeah, so now the thing is we're getting more of a gap. We're seeing what happens when the mind contacts the object. Like even a thought, you're watching the breath, a thought comes, a bubble of thought comes. What a waste of time. Wait, no, I came for this course and you can react, what is it? Or what am I gonna tomorrow? My mum, my dad said this. You can start to follow it. You see now you have to because you're trying to watch the breath. You give you a little bit of time to say, well, why? You can question why is it coming to know it's a thought. Let it go. You get that little space of the thought and you watching the thought. You see, because you are not the thought, right? The thoughts are coming, but you are not the thought. The thoughts coming. It can stay for a while. If you don't give it attention, it will go away. But, if it comes again and you start to feed it, it's going to stay and it's going to take you over and you're going to lose the breath, right? The whole thing is to watch your thoughts and give it that space. So what happens when you come out in the daily life, situation happens and you come back to that space. Hopefully you got that time, space to say, wait, I don't have to react in that way. And you have a choice of how to react. So then you're actually in control of your life. You are in control of your mind, which is the whole point of the Buddhist path, is to control your mind. No one can control it for you. The more you control what's happening or how you control your emotions. That's the whole point. We're trying to control how how we behave, and that behavior affects our emotions. So we want to be calm, stable, compassionate in our hands. So this practice kind of helps us. These meditation practices. So another way we'll do after lunch is more like an analytical mind, where you calm the mind, you go into this neutral position, then you start to kind of direct the mind. It's like from this dam, you direct where the water flows. Right? If you want to get this mind to go towards compassion, you start to have thoughts of compassion. If you want to be more compassionate, you have the mind going into patient, compassion or patience or whatever. You put it into certain channels. Right? You don't let the mind just think about anything. You try and think in a certain way. We restructure, so kind of reprogram our minds. And that also you can do 10 minutes a day, a week, 2 weeks, and it becomes part of your life. That it becomes automatic. That's what we mean by training. Like so you know that we use the word mindfulness a lot. Mindfulness. So yeah, here what we were doing is we were filling our mind with one object, awareness of the breath. We're trying to just keep the awareness of the breath. We're filling our mind with that certain object. So you can fill your mind with many things. You can fill your mind with thoughts of love, compassion, whatever, and you keep your mind on that. Yeah, like Lama Zopa, his main thing is compassion, because we're in this tradition of what's called the Mahayana. Maha in Sanskrit is great, Yana is vehicle. It's kind of the great vehicle. So the great vehicle is thinking always of others, not just our close ones, the neutral people, the difficult people, every living being, the insects, the ants outside, the worms outside, all beings, wherever they are, is compassion for. Because we see that, of course, with humans, yeah, we're all controlled by these emotions, and we affect each other by our behavior. Same with the birds; they also have a mind. They also have afflictions. They have anger, attachment, whatever. Pride. I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, because some dogs have pride. You see a retriever, yeah, they know they're good. I don't know. Yeah. So they have these. So they're controlled by them. So they react with those. They're like a puppet, right? That's the unfortunate thing. You see, for them, they don't have that freedom like we do to watch what's happening in our minds, to control it. They are unfortunately under the power of them, and they just follow it. The behavior is guided by it. Of course, you can train um, dogs, parrots, whatever, but in general, they're under the control of their illusion. Delusion. We're not. See, I mean, at the moment we are, but we have the power to be in control of the afflictions. The afflictions will be there, and in a dormant state, but we can control it. And that's the freedom we have as humans, humankind. We have that liberty. Animals don't have that liberty, unfortunately. So it's like a compassion for them because they're in that state. So in a similar way, some humans also are in that state. They're just completely unaware of how the emotions are making them behave in a certain way, and in a way they don't want to. They're kind of trapped. Yeah? They're in a human body, human mind, but somehow they're in an animal state because they're completely overwhelmed by their negative emotions. Completely takes on very strong attachment, very strong anger. So that's where the compassion side comes in. So wow, how sad they're in that situation. How wonderful if they were free from it. You know? How wonderful, that's compassion. How wonderful if they were free from those states. And of course, if you want, you can take that responsibility on of wonderful if I can make some change in them by your behavior, your words, whatever. But of course, you're not Mother Teresa, but what you can do, you try and do. So in the tradition, Lama Zopa, his idea is mindfulness. Of course, you can put it on the breath, you can put it in this and that. His thing is compassion. Put it on compassion, not just compassion of, oh, I wish others were free of their suffering, unbearable, difficult states. More like, I'm going to do something about it. I want to do something about it. Taking on that personal responsibility. Let me do something. So you can fill your mind, mindfulness, with that thought, that kind of compassion. This is what for him is a huge, huge subject. You know, when you go for his teachings, that's what he'll be constantly trying to go through. Because he said that's where real peace comes from, when we let go of our self-centeredness, think of others, cherish others, whoever they are, and wish to help them, and be a responsibility to help them in whatever small way we can. Whether it's giving some small thing to an animal, or giving some kind words to somebody who's depressed. Something to bring them out from their difficult states. Yeah, so mindfulness kind of many topics. It's not like mindfulness generally. Mindfulness can be different. It can be mindfulness of your actions, how you move, etc. Like, there's one technique you're mindful of, everything your whole physical comportment of how you move. Your intention is to drink something, you move. There's an intention to lift your hand, take it over to the cup, hold the cup, take the cup up. Intention to bring it back to your mouth. Intention to put it to your lips, you put your to swallow. Every millisecond of your actions is your awareness. It's like Big Brother watching yourself, you're watching exactly. So you have to be very, then, and you're very careful, because you have to watch your intentions, because most of the time we do things and there is an intention, but it's so quick we don't see it. There's an intention to eat something, do something, say something, and think something. So you're slowing down the whole process, and you're watching your intentions in there, because actually intention is what drives us to do something, say something, think something. So you're watching what's the intention. And be careful. If the intention is to harm or to give harm, we say, well, that's not so good, no? So we try to not follow that intention. We put another one in. But you see, some traditions in Buddhism, they use that as the main technique of just, you slow your actions down so much. You're like in a hospital. It's like you've got trouble with your arm. Like, so if you see some of these centers in the Vipassana techniques, like in Burma or something, if somebody goes there, think, wow, this is like a loony bin. Because you walk really slow. You walk, every step is like you wish to lift your heel, move it, place it, lift it. Even from getting up, going to the toilet, going to meditation hall, everything is done like in slow motion. So people are, what's going on? Like the Tibetans have never seen this. I remember my lama in my monastery. When we had a retreat in our monastery. My monastery is in Toulouse, southwest of France. So one of our monks, an Italian monk, he was doing this technique because he learned it in Sri Lanka, and he introduced it to us, and he came and he introduced. And he was like, what's gone wrong with you? You guys are like, it's like in a hospital. So, you don't look at each other, you don't have eye contact. It's always like, wow, it's difficult, but we see that's one technique. But it's the whole purpose is to lead you to actually be careful of your emotion, watching the afflictions arise, because we don't see how they arise so quickly. When you see contact, unpleasant, pleasant, unpleasant brings aversion, pleasant brings attraction. What happens when we have contact with what's pleasant? Because it's pleasant, we want it again, because we're craving for pleasant things. Whether it's mental or physical, so we want it again and again, and that's where we lead into trouble, because we think that's the sole reason we're going to get pleasure from that. That's not the thing. Yeah? And the unpleasant thing, also aversion, right? So we have to be careful that when we're doing these actions, when we have contact, is it pleasant, neutral, or unpleasant? The whole reason is that. But the thing is, it can be just a method, and you could be just acting very slowly, but you're full of anger, and there's no benefit, because you're like, oh my god. I have a teacher in Sri Lanka. He was saying this. He was doing this technique in Burma, and he was walking extremely slowly, so mindful. I mean, he was saying he was able to watch even the eye blink. I will blink your eye, I'm blinking. I moved my foot. But what he noticed was as he was walking, the American monk next to him was walking even slower. And he got angry. Got angry that he couldn't do it as well as him. Because this mindfulness means like this is walk as slow as. He said, that can't be mindfulness if I'm getting angry. He had some doubt coming in. He says, that can't be mindfulness. Or you're eating really slowly. That somebody's doing it more slowly, or somebody's making a noise, and you're getting angry at that person because they're not mindful. You're mindful, they're not mindful. That can't be mindfulness. Because mindfulness is supposed to pacify your mind. If you get angry, you're not pacified. You had a big doubt coming in. Can't be right. Because actually, so there's mindfulness is just actually in Tibetan it's called drempa. Drempa means memory, remembering. It's to recollect or bring back to memory. So when we're doing mindfulness of breathing, and what you're doing is just you bring your mind back to the breathing. You memorize or bring into recollection the breath. You can do it with all the different subjects. With compassion, you're recollecting compassion, the thoughts of compassion again and again until your mind is infused with that. It's like putting a tea bag into hot water and your mind gets infused. It becomes automatic. Your mind takes on the flavor of compassion. But unfortunately, what we've been doing is we've been infusing our mind with different states of mind when we think it's normal. Kind of pride of our education, our upbringing, our intelligence, whatever, and attachment, infusing our mind with things that we think is normal to be attached to, our reputation, our jobs, our health, or whatever. So then that's what our mind takes over. So we have to let go of that and infuse our mind with new things, and we can do it. We take the other tea bag out, put a new tea bag. Because our mind is kind of by nature, the clarity is neutral. The Dalai Lama often says actually the mind by nature is loving kindness. Is actually love. Our natural quality is love. We just don't see it. We're kind of clouded by it. Even the most evil person, the cruel person, has the compassion, love side. It's just clouded. Like yesterday, when the clouds came on the blue sky, you can't see the blue sky, but the sky is by nature blue inside. Behind all that, we can't see it because of the clouds come. So we have to believe in that nature of the mind is that clarity and that loving kindness. Go for that. So I hope, yeah. Okay, so after lunch we'll do a little bit more analytical stuff. And so that technique, this breathing technique, I'm not sure, new for some of you, but try to do it if you can. 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, and just keep. You don't do any special, big yoga asanas, yoga postures. Just keep the back straight, and so you can do it. After a while, you can do it actually anywhere. On the metro, when you're sitting in a park, anywhere, because you just kind of not you just ignore everybody. We just kind of bring the awareness, the mind here back in here eventually, and stay there. So if it helps, go through the posture, because sometimes if we're tight in the body, it's difficult to put the mind here immediately. Because then some pain will come or something. So relax the body first, and then slowly go through there. Keep it there. So again, it's like because the mind is not trained to stay in one object like that, it'll go away. It's just like a child or a little puppy dog, It just is so curious, wants to go to different places. So you try and bring it back, slowly bring it back. To be very gentle with it, because if you force the mind, it's gonna rebel. Just like if I can force a dog, it's gonna rebel. You're gonna bring it back very gently. Sometimes give it a smack on the nose. You keep it there. Of course, in 2 minutes, maybe it's gone again. And bring it back slowly. The thing is, the point is to try and keep it here more than going outside, and then in the end it will happen. It becomes more here. Just do it very gently, lot of love to yourself. If you try and force it too much in the beginning, the mind won't like it. You squeeze in the mind and you get all kinds of disturbances probably. So try and be very gentle with yourself. And sometimes it might go well. You might have very good stability, one morning, and the evening maybe not. Next morning, maybe not many stability. In the next evening, yes. So it'd be variable. Don't try and expect the same kind of sensations or quietness every time. It won't happen. guarantee you what happen. And the more you expect it to happen, the more disappointed you'll be. Same thing with every other thing. You know, put all your eggs in one basket. That's gonna bring me happiness. And meditation, yes, I found it. You know, that's it. Okay. Just let go. Be natural. Also, don't force the breath. Breathe naturally. Don't kind of, because there are some techniques where you hold, you know, hold and let go. None of that in this technique. Just watching. Okay, stop here. For me, yeah.